Guys, we're going to go through a training template for a rugby athlete in season. And this was off the back of Cassandra, actually one of our clients, and she wanted some thoughts on a nutrition and training considerations. So we thought we would make one. Ben doing the nutrition one, me coming in with the training template, because I do coach a lot of athletes. And the context is, actually before I get the context, by the end of this, you guys should understand how we think about programming for our athletes, particularly in season, considerations, context, nuance, in 10 minutes. Considerations for the client: 82 kilos, 175 centimeters, playing rugby, labor worker, power lifts, want to maintain muscle whilst playing sport. Now, while her question was on nutrition and calories, we still wanted to come in here and all right, well, he power lifts. Why does he power lift? Because I've had athletes, actually a rugby athlete, come to me, and his in-season template of training was a powerlifting program from Melbourne Strength Culture. I love Melbourne Strength Culture, but why is an athlete doing powerlifting in the middle of a season, or really at all, if their priority is athletic performance, which it naturally becomes, particularly when you're in season? Powerlifting is particularly neurally intensive on your central nervous system, using a lot of heavy barbell movements, has a risk-to-reward ratio that is very unfavorable towards competition, training, athletic performance, injury risk. So as you're going to see, I am doing almost no barbell movements, and we're going to talk about, well, that's one big reason why. So in season, for an athlete in season, we're looking at around 2 to 3 days weight training. So we got a 3-day split here. What I'm going to be removing is the volume and the sets. Here, I'm just going to simplify it for you guys. Get rid of the reps in reserve. Let's delete and simplify. You guys will see that we have a very clear understanding of volume, and we can see the volume across different muscle groups. But we're going to simplify and delete that. So now, simple program. What are we doing on our 3 days? Well, first program has a knee extension long ISO hold. Now, we're making an assumption that, well, first of all, let's zoom out a second. This is, the macro of focus is on maintaining strength, power, and speed qualities, particularly change of direction, ground-based dynamic movements that are specific to the actual athletic performance of an athlete, particularly a rugby player. Now, why are we starting off with a long ISO hold? So long ISO hold can be particularly valuable for our athletes who get knee pain. So this is a consideration here. I know Cassandra didn't say he got knee pain, but it's a common issue with a lot of our athletes. And so isometrics have been found to be very beneficial at creating inhibition neurally to downregulate pain, have an analgesic effect. Just give you the TLDR. And then we go into a heavy prowler push. So we start with the ISO hold, reduce pain, and then we go into the heavy prowler push. Obviously, you can change it to a normal leg extension if you prefer. Heavy prowler push, very specific position that is represented when we sprint. So heavy prowlers are really good because they don't cause DOMs, they shouldn't cause DOMs because they have no eccentric loading. They are great at putting the position of an athlete that they would be in when they sprint. Forward posture, 45-degree lean, strong knee drive. Love prowlers and putting them in for athletic preparedness. We come into a safety bar squat to box. We want to limit range of motion in season because of the fatigue management and stimulus management. And the box also does provide maybe some specificity around jumping and athletic base, which is usually going to be at around that quarter stance, half stance position when you're down in your athletic stance, which is similar to a box position. Low reps, more max effort work for our compound movements, but it's a safety bar instead of a barbell because it is much easier to perform technically, requires less mobility requirements compared to a traditional barbell squat. And then at the end of the program, we go into some single leg, so some unilateral work. We get some eccentric work for the hamstrings, which is really important for minimizing hamstring tendinopathy and injuries. And then we go into a heavy single arm dumbbell farmer's walk for some ipsilateral loaded, which means opposite side loaded, oblique, quadratus lumborum, trunk work. So that is 3, 6, 9, 12 working sets. Plus I have I build up the prowler over, so it's like an ascending and then descending pyramid of sets across the program. Across the 12 weeks. Your program doesn't have to be 12 weeks. It can be 6 weeks, 5 weeks, 4 weeks. This one's 12. We adjust as we go along. Day 2. Again, same knee extension holds because we want high frequency when we have an athlete with knee pain. Particularly it's patellofemoral pain, and more often than not compared to tendinopathy. If you don't know what those are, then I won't spend, you guys can ask, but just for those who do know, patellofemoral pain is actually, we misprescribe a lot of tendinopathies, apparently, at least according to a lot of smart physios that I spend time around. We're going to YWT is an awesome back movement that doesn't require much load at all. You can get like a really good a decent stimulus through your back. Strengthening the posterior chain of the athlete is really important, which is why this in-season program is heavily focused on legs and back and accessory and some accessory work. That says A1, B1. That should say A1, A2. Then we go into a superset here with a broad jump. So now we're in the horizontal vector, projecting forward, working on sticking and holding the position, holding for 3 seconds, because maybe the athlete, if we're going for powerlifting, we haven't been exposed to any type of more intermediate to advanced jumps or plyometrics. This is a jump here, so I'm not going to start him doing repeated jumps or single leg jumps. We're going to start with basic foundations. So a broad jump projecting into the horizontal vector is a really good one for that. We have one set here. Why do we have one set here? Because we're making an assumption that the athlete has knee pain, and broad jumps can be, well, they can flare up the knee because of the high shear force. So one set here, but you're welcome to do 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, maybe 4 sets. Excuse me. And rest periods, typical rest periods, except for our power and speed work, which will give a little bit more rest, all the way up to 3 minutes, depending on how many reps were done. Think about your phosphocreatine recovery rates. If phosphocreatine is 70 to 80% is restored within about 90 seconds, and the majority, if I recall correctly, feel free to fact check me, the majority is restored within 3 minutes, then we can use that as a guide for our plyometric work. Then we go into a superset with a standing landmine press. I'm not concerned about the fatigue from the broad jumps because 1, it's low reps. 2, it's opposing sides of the body. Standing landmine press, I love that for a shoulder bulletproofing perspective because you get the scapula protracting off the rib cage, which is something we don't often do with our athletes, particularly when they're having to constantly extend and abduct and hold themselves and push off. Really important for shoulder health. And then we go into lateral lunge. The adductors are really neglected with our athletes. Just get rid of that, simplify it even more. You guys decide the rep range. And then a laying psoas march. How often do we strengthen the hip flexors? We forget about them entirely. So we have a laying psoas march, 3-second iso hold, 8 to 12 each side. Hip flexor strength being really important for gait, locomotion, and speed and sprinting. Because what do you think drives the knee into flexion? Hip flexors, of course. Last day, again, single leg extension. You can obviously sub this out for other things. Again, for the knee pain. Calf raise. Make sure you're hitting the calves. The soleus, the gastroc in. So soleus is being hit in a knee bent position. The gastroc is being hit in a straight leg position. Make sure you hit both. Soleus being really important for long bouts of walking or gait. But both are really important for sprinting and speed. They take like 10 times body weight of force when you're sprinting and running. Make sure you're hitting that, particularly for Achilles as well. Dumbbell chest supported row, some back armoring. Then we see only barbell movement is the barbell RDL. It's low volume, it's 2 sets. Watching fatigue there, into some cable face pulls with external rotation, again for our shoulders and back. So let's get rid of this. These are just some notes that we add for our own program template. We're going to get rid of that and simplify it. Obviously, if you guys want to get the whole full template, you can get it from us, just let us know. But the point here is we have 3 days. The athlete should be training then at least once in the week. They'll have at least one game. That's 5 days. At minimum, they'll be training once. They'll probably be training twice. So you have 6 days of sport. Sorry, you have 6 days of physical activity. 3 days of weight training. There should be 2 trainings in there. And then there should be 1 game in there. And then maybe there's a technical and skill session in there as well. So the athlete will be training essentially every day, almost. That's why we won't push anywhere more than 3 days of weight training, because the weight training is supposed to be supplementary. It's supposed to help the athlete. We're not trying to create necessarily adaptations. Anything extra with adaptation-wise is a bonus. We're trying to maintain qualities, minimize injury, keep the athlete fresh, recovered, and maintaining the muscle mass that they've worked so hard to do. Get away from powerlifting. It is not conducive to athletic development. If they want to be a powerlifter, they should stop playing rugby and start powerlifting. Otherwise, it's not conducive to the recovery or the stimulus for the athlete to perform. And then labor work is already so intensive. People's jobs are already so intensive as well, physically, mentally. You want to take a step back and create a program that helps the athlete perform and thrive. It doesn't take away, but adds. I hope that was helpful. If you guys got any questions, put them in here. All you got to do is type. I don't mean to sound condescending. That's a bit condescending, isn't it? It's not, because a lot of you guys ask, I don't know how to use Discord. No, honestly, just type. Just type away. These are just different channels where you can talk. You click the plus icon if you want to upload anything. Emojis. It's crazy out here. I hope that was helpful, guys. Any questions? Where do you want to put it? You guys can't type in here, so you can put it in training. I hope that was interesting.